Have you ever read a law so incredibly specific that you just know there's an amazing, chaotic story behind it? Like, nobody just wakes up and decides to ban something out of the blue. Every warning label, safety code, and hyper-specific regulation exists because someone, somewhere, messed up astronomically. Today, we're looking at the top 5 historical blunders where human greed, pure laziness, or just jaw-dropping stupidity directly forced the government to write the rules we live by today. Number 5. The time a theatre was so worried about people sneaking in for free that they accidentally invented the modern exit door. Welcome to Chicago, 1903. The brand new Iroquois Theatre had just opened, and management was bragging to everyone who would listen that the building was completely fireproof. But management had a bigger concern than fire. They had a nightmare scenario keeping them up at night. People sneaking into the show without paying. Oh, the horror. To stop these devious, non-paying theatre enthusiasts, the owners came up with a brilliant, foolproof plan. They literally locked several of the emergency exit doors from the outside. On December 30th, the theatre was packed way past capacity with over 1,700 people. During the second act, a stage light sparked and ignited a curtain. No big deal, right? Just use the fire suppression gear. Except, oops, there wasn't any. The fireproof theatre didn't have fire extinguishers, alarms, or a working phone. The crowd panicked and rushed the exits. But remember those locked doors? Yeah. To make matters worse, the unlocked doors opened inward. When a panicked crowd presses against a door that opens inward, the sheer physical pressure makes it literally impossible to open. Tragically, over 600 people lost their lives in a matter of minutes. It remains the deadliest single-building fire in US history. The sheer outrage from this blunder completely rewrote city building codes across the globe. This disaster gave us the legal requirement that all emergency exits must open outward. It also led to the invention of the panic bar, the crash bar you see on public doors today that automatically unlocks when you push against it. Number 4. The Hawk's Nest Tunnel Disaster, or how to prove that corporate cutting of corners can be literal murder. We're jumping to the 1930s during the Great Depression. Jobs were scarcer than a polite comment on the internet, so workers would take anything. A company was hired to dig a 3-mile tunnel through a mountain in West Virginia to redirect water for a power plant. As they started digging, they hit a jackpot of pure silica. Now, silica is great for making glass, but it is absolute poison for human lungs if you breathe it in. Standard safety at the time recommended wet drilling, using water to keep the dust from flying into the air. But water costs money, and stopping to use it takes time. The contractors chose dry drilling instead. They also refused to supply basic breathing masks. When workers complained they couldn't see through the white cloud, supervisors told them to keep digging or get fired. Within months, workers started dropping. The dust caused acute silicosis, which essentially turns your lung tissue into rigid scar tissue. You literally suffocate from the inside out. It's estimated that over 760 workers, mostly black migrant laborers, died from this single project. The company just buried many of them in unmarked mass graves and kept drilling. The public backlash was immense. This horrific blunder fundamentally changed American labor law. It led directly to the expansion of workers' compensation laws to cover industrial diseases, not just sudden accidents. It also laid the groundwork for what would eventually become OSHA mandates, making it strictly illegal to force humans to breathe rock dust just to save a buck. Number 3. The Titanic. Yes, that Titanic. The blunder here wasn't just hitting the iceberg, it was the pure aesthetic vanity that came before it. See, back in 1912, British maritime laws were a little outdated. The law calculated how many lifeboats a ship needed based on the ship's weight, not how many human souls were actually on board. The Titanic was massive, so by the legal formula, it technically only needed about 16 lifeboats. The ship's designers actually planned for more, but the executives made a choice. They felt that having too many lifeboats would clutter up the deck and ruin the beautiful view for the first-class passengers. Priorities, people. So, they sailed out into the Atlantic with only 20 lifeboats, barely enough for half the people on board. Because who needs safety features when you have a first-class smoking room, right? We all know how this ends. Iceberg, right ahead, water fills the ship, and suddenly everyone realizes that a beautiful deck view doesn't help you float in freezing water. More than 1,500 people perished, largely because there simply weren't enough boats to put them in. The world was so shocked by this monumental stupidity that maritime powers immediately formed the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, or SOLAS, in 1914. SOLAS created a brand new, revolutionary concept in law. Every single vessel must carry enough lifeboats for 100% of the passengers and crew. No exceptions for aesthetics. Number 2. The medical blunder that sounds like a cartoon villain plot, but was actually just terrible chemistry. In 1937, a pharmaceutical company created a liquid version of a breakthrough antibiotic called sulfanilamide. It was a literal lifesaver. But the pill tasted terrible, and kids hated taking it. The company wanted a liquid version that tasted sweet, like candy. The company's chief chemist found a chemical that dissolved the drug perfectly and made it taste amazing. Diethylene glycol. Did they test it on animals? No. Did they do a chemical analysis? Nope. They just did a simple visual inspection to make sure the color looked nice. And the flavor was sweet. Looks good to me, ship it. Here's the catch. Diethylene glycol is literally the main ingredient used in modern automotive antifreeze. It is incredibly toxic to humans. Within weeks, disaster struck. Across the country, children who took the medicine started suffering from horrific kidney failure. Over 100 people died in agonizing pain. The craziest part? Before this happened, the US Food and Drug Administration had almost no legal power to stop them. Under old laws, companies didn't have to prove a drug was safe before selling it. The public outcry was furious. Congress rushed to pass the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. This law completely changed medicine forever. For the first time in history, manufacturers were legally forced to scientifically prove a drug was entirely safe before it could ever hit store shelves. So every time you read those long, boring safety warnings on your medicine bottle. And finally, number 1, 1911 in New York City. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory occupied the top floors of a high-rise building, employing hundreds of young immigrant women who worked grueling hours making blouses. The owners of the factory were obsessed with control. They noticed some workers were taking unauthorized breaks or, heaven forbid, stealing scraps of fabric. Their solution: they literally locked the doors to the stairwells and exits from the outside. That way, the women couldn't leave without being searched first. On March 24th, a higher blew by fifths. Fueled workers ran to the exit doors, but they were locked tight. The keys were with managers who had already fled. Some tried to use the flimsy outdoor fire escape, but it collapsed under the weight of the crowd. 146 workers lost their lives that day. The horror of this event shook the nation to its core. It sparked a massive wave of labor strikes and political fury that politicians simply couldn't ignore. This tragedy gave birth to the Sullivan-Hoey Fire Prevention Law. This law mandated that factories must install automatic sprinkler systems. It also mandated regular fire drills, set strict occupancy limits, and made it a major criminal offense to lock any workplace door during business hours. Every single fire drill you've ever had to do at school or work, it exists because of this exact blunder. So, there you have it. The next time you walk through an outward opening door, breathe clean air at work, or look at a safety label on your phone, just remember that our modern safety net wasn't built by proactive geniuses. It was carved out of historical disasters caused by people who valued a quick buck over human life. What's the most ridiculous law you've ever heard of? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and please, for the love of history, keep your exit doors unlocked. See you next time.